Welcome to another episode of Knowledge to Currency, where knowledge is power and currency is king. I have the special guest, Brandon Fortino, here from Short Form Pros, the founder, the CEO. How are you today, sir?
Doing well. It's sunny outside in San Diego, so
Man,
it feels nice.
What last month was all rain, so maybe it's all sun this month.
It is. I hope so.
Well, you've been on the show. You're definitely a friend of the whole what would you say, the ecosystem of knowledge to currency.
Appreciate it.
And I consider you as one of my business partners now. Our friendship has been growing and our partnerships are growing.
Yeah.
I kind of want to talk to you about your business and content.
Good.
So some of the questions that we kind of were talking about earlier, you and Kevin, I feel like people don't really understand the power of the strategies of just filming and making content, and I guess you would say quality over quantity. Like some people will think they could just use AI to do everything, and some things that is good to use AI, but at the same time, quality means a lot. So when it comes to pricing of getting someone to do work for you, people may roll their eyes when you talk about your pricing, which I think your pricing isn't bad. But let's kind of touch on that when it comes to quality over quantity.
I mean, it's such an interesting thing because I think as a creative as a whole, it's pretty common phenomenon, I feel like, in the creative space.
Right.
You know, you have somebody on Fiverr that charges $10 for a logo.
Right.
Then you also have companies that rebranded Coca Cola's logo for like $2 billion.
Right.
Logos, you know
Right.
what I mean? And
Yeah.
now we're talking about creatives and all these different stuff. So I think naturally in the creative space, there's this always been I wouldn't say a discrepancy, but there's just a little bit of a lot of unknowns when it comes to what success looks like. And I think going into content, kind of like what you were saying, quality over quantity, I think people don't really know what that means in a way. I think even sometimes most of us don't really know what quality means in that context of content, right?
Right.
I just think that, at least from my eyes and how we run things with all of our clients, is creating something that people really gonna enjoy. Because there's a lot of talks of people, like, for example, today I had a talks of like, so how are you able to get these amount of views to your clients? Did you pay for these people to get to this level of views? Did you hack the algorithm? Did you like do one of those growth hacks, you know?
Right.
But not really. Really, it just come down to, all right, there's gonna be another person on the other side of the screen that's gonna watch it. And if your goal to actually connect with them, let's create content that will connect you with them. And that's easier said than done, obviously.
Right.
And it all starts, I call it our content philosophy. It stems to three different things. It's what are we gonna talk about? How are we gonna visually show it? And then lastly, is like, how are people going to consume it? That's called the distribution. So I'll get into that. So to start off, like, what is the idea of the content that you're doing, right? If you ask the top 100 content creators, Mr. Beast, Arac, Logan Paul, KSI, Simon, all these people, their message is pretty clear outright of what is the most important part of a content is the actual idea of the content. Is that topic interesting? And if it's interesting, then it relates to the people, right? Whoever that people might be, right? Some people find like, one of those like monster trucks things. Like some people find that interesting.
Right.
Some people find looking at really cool architectural design houses interesting. So knowing what is interesting and what people would actually enjoy is the first thing, right? That's the topic. The second thing is like, how do we visually tell that to the people? So I don't know if have you ever seen like a Pixar movie? You know, you probably you've seen a couple, probably, right?
Toy Story.
Yeah, Toy Story. I love Toy Story. So you know what, with those movies, so here's sidetrack story. When I first saw Toy Story, I didn't know how to speak English.
Oh, really?
So I didn't know what Buzz and all these different characters are saying.
Right.
And the captions was too fast for me to follow because I was like, I don't know, little.
Right.
But they were able to tell their story so well that I was still able to understand, okay, this is what the story about. There is the bad kid, Sid, right? And then it's a story about Buzz and his friend Woody that is going on adventures, and there's lessons there. And they're able to tell that story visually really well. So applying that same context into the content that we make, how do we create something that's also visually pleasing? So this applies to all types of content and all types of niches. If you see Mr. Beast's type content, in order for him to make his content looks pleasing, he have cuts every 3 seconds or even lower than that, right? I think, so I'm working on this YouTube video where I analyze Mr. Beast's videos, and on average, every first 10 seconds of each of his videos, they have about 20 to 30 different camera angles. Wow. He's cutting through those.
Okay.
Right? So this is like one ways of that. How do you tell that story visually? Right? Let's think about, let's say, the whole opposite spectrum of that. Architectural design. That's the name of a magazine that turned into a really successful YouTube channel. And all they do is they show really beautiful homes in all over the world.
Right.
And their style is like more luxury, more vibey, more just slow looks of like, here's the pool. Here's Sofia Vergara's kitchen. Like, you know what I mean? Super nice and clean. So they're telling their story visually. They're keeping that in mind of like, all right, here's a topic that we're going to talk about, which let's say for architectural digest purposes, they want to showcase, let's say, Ryan Serhant's home.
Yeah.
They're going to say, like, okay, we're going to showcase Ryan Serhant's home. How do we capture the best visuals to showcase this home, to tell the story to the audience? So that's the second part of the content philosophy, what we use. And the last is distribution, because the packaging matters too. Like this is, I mean, a lot of consumer packaged goods brand knows this. Like if you don't have a really good packaging on your shelf, nobody's going to pick it off the shelf.
Yeah.
We also have digital shelves, which is literally YouTube, Netflix, all these different stuff. Like we have a limited time of our day, and there's a shelf of content that is available for everybody to choose. And your goal is to stand out and get to those preferred way that people consume. So taking that into context of like, okay, if I wanted to create a short form video, for example, in a short form video, typically, what do? People are in the middle of working, or they're probably are just checking out during lunch and they want to scroll a little bit, right?
Right.
Considering that nature, we got to package that content in accordance to that. So typically you want to have like one point of focus in each video. You want to make sure that it's short and snappy, because they're only like checking their phones for like very quick, right?
Right.
A lot of the times they don't have their audios on, so you have to make sure you have your captions on there, right? So in case they don't. So keeping these things in mind when you're creating content, it's so important, because at the end of the day, the audience is going to consume it. If you were to use that format, let's say on a podcast, I don't think it'll work. Like, because people on a podcast, typically, what do? They're typically listening to it on their way to work or on their way back to work, on their commutes.
Sure.
Or as they're doing something else. So that's why a lot of podcasts that are like this, more conversational, works really well in the longer form. Right. So if you just narrow your content philosophy down to those three things of what are we going to talk about? Why is this topic interesting and relevant? The second thing is, once we find that topic is relevant, how do we visually tell the story that makes sense for the audience? And last but not least is, okay, once we have the story down now, how is this people going to consume it? How are we going to package it so it makes sense for this audience to consume the content? Exactly. So
and then you have to do that in 30 seconds too, right?
Well, that's on the short form.
Yeah,
exactly.
Short form, right?
If you were to do like a longer kind of like YouTube, that's a whole different formatting, right?
Correct.
So I think a lot of beginners, people that they come to me and they're like, okay, I just take what was here and then post it there to that it makes sense. Like, you're not gonna get the best out of it, because if I'm scrolling down and I see a 20-minute videos on my TikTok, and then I'm like in the middle of my lunch, like I only have 5 minutes. I'm not gonna like watch that whole thing. Swiped away.
True.
Right. So considering that format, I think a lot of people don't really think about that.
So for you, like you basically try to help people understand, like, to get digital branding done and to tell your story, you only have so much time in a brief time to make a first impression to make it happen.
Right.
So, and you can do this with any business, right?
Right.
Because a lot of times we met through like real estate, but you don't only help real estate folks, you help everyone, right? So as far as like the quality, so as far as the sound, the lighting, the camera, all those things, do you feel that you have to have the $20,000 camera, or can you get that same effect with your cell phone?
Yeah, ring up the credit card, buy the 100,000. I'm just kidding. Don't do it. Don't do that. Especially nowadays, no, it doesn't matter,
right?
Because they have this saying in the video production world called the gear syndrome.
Yeah.
A lot of times you just wanted to buy the nicer thing because it makes you feel like it makes you feel more confident.
Right.
Because you think the image would look better.
Right.
But really I think the confidence should come from within. So, and when you have confidence, a lot of times you feel more empowered to say your message, tell your story.
Right.
So I think more importantly to think about is before buying that $100,000 camera, just think about, is this a necessity or am I just trying to compensate how I'm feeling by buying this gear? Because I've seen a lot of successful content creators that are just recording on their iPhone and they're very successful at that. And there's also people that are using the $3,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 camera and make it very well too.
Right.
So I don't think it's a yes or no question or there's like a win or loss question, but I think definitely for most people, you can always get started with things that you already have, which is a lot of times your phone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing too. I think a lot of thing is just like you said, just starting. Like you learn how to do this. You don't want to invest all this money until you are getting better at it.
Right.
And I think it's kind of like anything. As you start to get better at it, you're like, all right, now I want to invest in a light next month, and kind of set these goals for yourself.
Right.
Now, as far as like we kind of talked about when you're making the content, trying to tell the story. What kind of tools could people use to help them do that?
There's a lot of tools out there, man.
All right.
I mean, the one that I use primarily, I'm just going to tell people here is Answer the Public is really great. So you go on answerthepublic.com, you figure it out of like what people are currently searching for right now. So that's one good tool. ChatGPT, it's my best friend. So literally like I use that all the time. Ask him really good prompts of like, hey, come up with 30 common misconceptions about creating content. That's a really good prompt that you can start doing. There's a tool as well called Opus. I think I like Opus when you have long form content like this, and then you can always chop it up later. And technically they'll edit it for you, but you can really tell what an Opus edit looks like. So I typically just use it as a way to cut down what they think would be good. Right. So I think that's cool that I use those two. That's probably like the three main tools that I use when it comes to creating content. For me and my other clients, and even just researching what currently trending too. It's really cool.
So that's on creating the subject matter of a story and stuff. And then as far as like the type of gear, you said like you can use your cell phone, you could use a camera, any type of mic.
I'd say like if you're really just starting, use your phone camera. If you wanted to spend a little bit more money, I'll say get a microphone first. That should be your first purchase.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a light. I think you can stand in front of your window and it actually looks good. Just make your background looks nice and tidy it up a little bit. You know what I mean? But get a they call it a lavalier microphone that you can plug into your phone. You can just look this up on Amazon. There's a lot of brands out there, DJI. Nice. There's a lot of good ones right now that really cost not that bad, like $200, $300. And I'd say start with those and you start recording with your camera. Just start doing it. I know a guy recently actually that he's been a viral sensation on Instagram. Okay. And he's a lawyer and he really loves just talking about ways to win in an argument. So exactly, because he's a lawyer. And every single day he would go in his car, or maybe after he get back from work, he would just pull up his phone and start talking about, here's how you win an argument against your best friend, for example. Here's what you should say when someone said, oh, I don't want to watch that movie. You know what I mean? He just says these things every single day. He just kept posting. No fancy camera, no fancy lights, just his phone, not even a microphone. He's just recording inside of his car. Dude got like millions of followers right now because people are enjoying that type of content. Again, because the content is actually really good and kind of addicting to watch.
So for him, do you think that he gets clients to get more to represent from doing it? Because obviously he's an attorney,
right?
Or does he might just do it just for something fun?
I mean, I can guess a million things about what he might be doing with it, right?
Exactly.
I mean, people can always assume like if you get more awareness, maybe you'd get more business from it, right? And I don't even know if that's his goal. Exactly. Maybe that's just something that he's passionate about doing. And I feel like we don't talk about that enough, right?
Yeah.
There's a difference between trying to get business using your social media and there's a business by just doing things that you're passionate in doing. And I think you should combine those two if possible. Right. Right. Especially if you're a personal brand or trying to grow. I think just always tying in what makes you different and what makes you who you are, it's also important. And a lot of people feel like they have to be trapped in this box. And a lot of the times people ask me like, how can you be, like, what would you do to make me different? How can I get my own red jacket in a way?
Right.
Well, just be you. Like this red jacket, just because I love this red jacket. I like the color.
Right.
So find what that is for you, whether you have your own little quirks, the things that makes you different, right? So find out what that is in a way.
Yeah, and then like that's another thing too. Some people have a bunch of following and don't do anything with it. They just have a bunch of followers. So how to understand, like, you are not necessarily an influencer, but you have influence on all these people that followed you and listen to you. So how can you, I guess, maximize that power?
I mean, it's kind of like a spectrum, I feel like, right? It's like it's the followers is one metric, but there could be another metric that this is harder to define, but it is how well do those followers actually know you?
True.
Right? If I were to tell people tomorrow, blast it out, kind of like Pace Morby, what he did, like, hey, I'm having a random meetup tomorrow at, Balboa Park. So
right.
Everybody show up. We're going to do meet and greet. How many people will actually show up? Right. So I think it's another metric that you can, I don't know if there's not an actual metric for it.
Right.
There's some terms, but it's like, how many people actually connected with you and actually would willing to do that for you? Because that's also, like, if I was The Rock and I'll be like, I'm going to be at Balboa Park tomorrow, I'd be like, there's so many people that are going to be there.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I think there's levels in terms of that engagement with people. So that's just something that I think when you're doing marketing in general, not just in social, you got to keep in mind of that as well.
No, I mean, I think that happened with Kevin Hart when he started getting bigger on social media. And I think he did his first movie with The Rock.
Yeah.
They were promoting the movie, and then they wanted him to, like, say something on his social media, and he said no. And they were like, no, you have to do this. He goes, no, these are my fans. Like, you can't tell me what to do with my fans.
Yeah.
And that's the power and the difference of the way things are now versus when you had to go on a television show, like go on Johnny Carson or Arsenio Hall or The Tonight Show or Saturday Night Live to promote your movie or your album or your product.
Yeah.
Now, literally, they can take their phone and promote it on their own to their exact fan base as well.
It just showcases the power of the trust that you build too, right? Because if Kevin Hart tomorrow says, like, I don't know, buy a product.
Yeah.
People will be like, I'll buy that product because Kevin Hart thinks it's good.
Yeah.
And if the product sucks, they'll be like, Kevin just like failed me right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
There's that level of trust that you're building with your members of your community, right?
Yeah,
because
that's what they did. That tequila, right? The Rock has
Terramana, tequila,
See?
And it's trust, because I feel like as humans, like, marketing is so interesting to me because it's really diving down on the psychology of humans,
right?
And I feel like we just love to be a part of a tribe, like a bigger tribe, right? That's how we were. We see these people like Kevin Hart, Dwayne Johnson, or even like other influencers out there. It's kind of like our tribe leaders, in a way.
True.
You know what I mean? When our tribe leader said do something,
true,
you want to do it, right? And that tribe leader can be a company, that tribe leader can be a person, whatever that looks like. So, and like what you said, I really agreed that with back then you have to go on TV and TV shows, but now you can actually just pull up your phone, just
go on the radio. Like you would always know when Will Smith became a big star before all the red table stuff. You would never really hear from him until he had something to showcase, so to speak.
Yeah.
And he said that's how he was taught when he got in the late 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
When he became a movie star, they're like, yeah, if you don't have a movie, you shouldn't be out. And it's like crazy that's how it used to be versus now everything's out. Everything's online. Everyone's posting where they're going, what they're eating, what they're doing. So it's a lot different than it used to be.
Which brings the value to these people as well, right? Kind of like the importance of doing it. I think there's so many people out there, and it's so crazy. Not crazy, but it's so surprising to me that in 2024, we still have people that are like, oh, I don't know if it works or not. Where we're at the level where the disparity is so wide within people that don't use it and people that are really well done at it, right?
Sure.
I think as a marketplace, at least this is my personal opinion, that I think in our marketplace, we haven't truly found out the maximum value that we can get from having an organic following.
Right.
Even the best out of this space, which is let's say Mr. Beast, the guy Jimmy, like he's starting so many different companies because his content is really good and people watch it in 20 different languages. Right. So, and like just for perspective, one of his videos brings in more viewers than the Super Bowl. Like,
Okay,
just,
got it.
And he does this
global.
Yeah, and he does this month over month, or sometimes like week after week, because he posts like 3 to 4 videos a month, right?
Right.
So I think as a society, we haven't moved faster enough in terms of acknowledging the power of this. And I think the people who are in the industry, they're actually accepting it with broad hands. I think it's going to happen the same thing with AI. Like, people are going to be like, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use it. Or they just know and heard about it, but they wouldn't actually use it.
Sure.
And there's going to have that disparity of people, whether you're the very, very late adopters. And then you have people that are just,
Yeah, they're fighting it. I have a bunch of different friends. When first time I heard about AI, I was like, wow, check this out. It's so cool. And I would sit and mess around and try different things to see what it could do. And then I had other friends that were totally afraid, like, this is dangerous. It's going to do all these different things. And I had explained to them it's like a calculator. Like if I had to do a bunch of math and we had to solve these issues or these equations, would you want to do shorthand on paper or would you want to use a calculator? I'm like, I would use a calculator. I'm like, well, just think at one point in time, someone looked at a calculator and was like, whoa, this is different. Like, let me add it up on paper to make sure this is right. And then the person on the calculator is like, all right, this is the answer. And then they would sit there and shorthand. I was like, that's you right now. You're literally the person fighting the calculator, saying like, no, I don't believe that the answer is right. Let me double check it myself. And you're taking your eraser and carrying the 1 and then the 3 and all that. And that's what to me I hear when I hear people talk like that.
Exactly. I agree. I'd agree 100%.
Yeah, the technology is here and you've been using AI the whole time. You just didn't realize it when you have spell check, when you're on Netflix, when you go on Google, when it suggests things you should watch, that's all AI driven. You just don't notice it. They just kind of slipped it in there. But now you can really hey, help me do a business plan. Help me, I don't know, structure an eviction letter or whatever the case may be, and it'll help you do it.
I think that's just showcase, I think, a lot of the power of having the right information too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think people are not informed correctly, or they're not just refusing to get informed.
Sure.
Yeah, it is surprising.
Crazy, right?
It is crazy. So crazy. So crazy.
And then now let's talk about short form pros. With the company as it continues to grow since our last time we met, what's some of the new things around the horizon for your company?
I mean, I think we're really, right now this year, we're really trying to scale and really work with more professional services business. I think we find that out of all the niche that we were working with the past few years, like really having that service type businesses, they're doing somewhere between like $1 million to 10 million and above. Like that's our perfect type of clientele to work with. The reason is a lot of times they have already a set of ways to acquire clients. They already know how to close. They already have a good product. Yep. And now when you're adding socials into that, when you're adding organic content to that, you're kind of like adding another lane in the highway. So now they can accept more people. Right. You know what I mean? So right now I just like looking to scale and work with bigger companies in a way. And I'm all about the impact because I know how much impactful it could be if you've done it right. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, you would know, like in terms of just getting recognized or even being the top of mind. It's easy to say. Like people don't give enough weight to just being top of mind. You know?
Oh yeah.
Like if you were recognized in the random, you're going to Seaport Village and somebody is like, "Oh, hey Senator, I seen your video." Like it might be so simple, but literally it's them spending their hard-earned, not even hard-earned money. It's their time, which they can never get back.
Yes, exactly.
Watching your stuff. You know what I mean?
Nah, because we're doing the work, I don't even realize all the stuff that's happening in the backside. So I got into the elevator at Beers and Deals. Shout out to Rich and his team. And somebody was like, "Hey, I know you." And I didn't know them. And I was like, "Hey, nice to meet you." And then we started talking. And I was like, okay, so they noticed me just by seeing me on Instagram or seeing me on YouTube. And if you can leverage that into like your brand recognition for your business, it can only help. Like, because then if they have to get that service anyway, they'd rather get it from somebody they recognize and know.
Exactly.
You know, and I take pride in being the person you see on Instagram, and when you meet me in person, to be the same person, not be someone else.
They have a term for it in marketing. They call it brand recall.
Okay.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I used to learn in college. I'm like, I want to use it now. It's called brand recall. This basically is like when you think of fast food restaurants, first thing that you think about, what do you think now?
Fast food
right now. You already have it right now.
I would imagine like the worst one to eat is McDonald's, but it's the most famous.
Okay, see, like McDonald's have built a brand for you to remember.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so now let's do first soft drink. If I say think about a soft drink right now.
Soft drink. I like Sprite.
Sprite. Okay, so Sprite have made it into the top of the head for your case. Let's talk about let's say let's do an example of donut places you like to go to. Like the first thing.
I don't eat donuts. But I guess the most famous is Dunkin' Donuts, right?
There you go. I mean, it just showcases that you can recall them by name.
Yeah, you know absolutely. I mean?
So
absolutely.
It's crazy to me to think like these are the stuff that you can't really put a number behind in a way of like, what is this thing actually valued at? But, you know, if you ever are craving donuts, the first place you're gonna think about is probably Dunkin'.
Yeah.
But then you're probably gonna look at other options. But the first thing that you're gonna think about is like Krispy Kreme or Dunkin'. For me, it's Krispy Kreme, right?
Oh,
so
really?
Like,
okay.
I like Krispy Kreme a lot. But
is Krispy Kreme from California?
I believe so.
That's probably why. Because in Bakersfield, they added Krispy Kreme.
They do have a Krispy Kreme.
Yeah.
Although I feel like in Indonesia, Dunkin' Donuts is way more popular.
As far as I remember. But then when I moved out here, there's all these like little donut spots. Yeah, like everywhere.
Yeah.
I think they're money laundering.
Clip that. Senator's hot take. Donut shops are money laundering.
There's so many donut shops and coffee shops. Like, never seen so many. What's going on?
What's going on here?
So then right now, as far as like the type of client that you are looking for, because like I said, you're in the real estate space, but now are you just looking for anybody and more, like you said, companies in general?
Yeah, I think service businesses. Like if you're a service business that are doing, upwards of $1 million in revenue per year, you would be the perfect client for us in a way of like,
How would you help that business like elevate?
Really, if they don't have any social presence right now and they haven't done any organic content, literally just starting to do content. We'll help them anywhere from the ideas all the way till the posting. So that includes the scripting, that includes the production, all white glove service. But because I really believe that if you already have a really good service that you're running, you add organic on top of that, it's like a whole new lane of highway that you're getting more cars into the actual highway. So, and they can see the most results too. So.
And then you guys would film like a couple of times a month, or how does that process work?
Yeah, typically like on the operations goes, like we would come up with ideas for them, we research them, help in their brand messaging side of things, optimize their bios first of all, and then we help them script some of the videos. And we'll go, if they're local, pretty much like once a month, typically we'll go out and shoot with them. We have a team that'll go out and shoot with them. Or if they're more like, somewhere across, not in California, typically we do once a quarter. We have batching sessions where we would go out, shoot all the videos 1 or 2 days, and then we'll handle all the post-production behind it. And then once that's approved, we'll then go ahead and post it and make sure that everything is tracked and continue improving month over month.
So you help with the video editing, you help make sure that everything looks primo, yeah. And then as far as like timeline, how long do they usually have to work with you to see results?
Yeah, typically, on the aggressive side, if they're really good, they can see something within 90 days.
Nice.
I think realistically, 180 days would be more realistic. And again, kind of talking about results, right? What is the result that we're aiming for? I think that's a very important conversation to have.
Yeah.
If your result is, getting to 100,000 subscribers and then you currently have 0, that's more of like a year or two play. You know
I
what I
was
mean?
saying 180
Yeah,
days. I don't
so-
know. That might be you're buying followers and subscribers.
Right, exactly. And we don't do that. We don't do any paid ads. We don't do any
Nice. So
boosting
all
and all that stuff.
organic.
All organic. And if your goal is, say, if you're a realtor and your goal is to get a deal or two, that's pretty reasonable, I'd say, to do like somewhere in the 90 days mark. I think you can definitely do that. We have a couple of clients that have done that if they're a realtor. If you are let's say dentist, for example, right? And you wanted to do content and your goal is to be more known locally, that's definitely like a easy goal to achieve within 90 days. I think that's pretty, you can brush through the content that you'll create. So I think it depends on the goals, but typically we work in like 90 or 180 days sprint. So,
are there any changes with the social media algorithm that people aren't aware of in the last, I guess, 30 days?
That's this question. It's interesting. When people think of an algorithm change, I really don't think that it's a lot of. I don't think it's the actual algorithm that changed. I think it's people's. What's the word? I think it's people's moods change in a way. I think that's the best word I could put it.
Okay.
For example, like looking at this, I mean, this is nothing new. This is not a new concept. Hollywood have done this for ages.
Yeah.
Like Hollywood wouldn't put out Marvel movies like year over year over year over year.
Okay.
They did that basically like, what is that? Like that 5-year sprint, but then they're now kind of not really doing that. And because the audience get exhausted after a while, right?
Okay.
They're like, okay, we're seeing these things over and over and over again. Now I want something else. Hollywood wouldn't put out like World War movies, like history movies, like, back to back to back. We had a season where we have like the history movies, for example. 1 year where we have like the Dunkirk, the other one, I forgot what it's called, Oppenheimer, what I mean?
Right.
And then we have another season 1 year where they put out all the music ones with like Bohemian Rhapsody, the Elton John movies, right? So when you talk about algorithm change, I don't think it's the algorithm that changed a lot of times. I think it's people's desire to watch that change, which in that aspect, talking about it from that context, I think there are. I think people love a more of a natural, just getting to know you type content instead of it being a very well polished type content. And by well polished, I mean like very staged, very scripted.
Right.
So the way we kind of navigate through that is a lot of times we talk more about the actual founders or whoever is actually running the business and talk about your story, why you started this business, and becoming more vulnerable in that sense, kind of almost to the point where like, okay, you're getting to know about my life. Right. I think that's where I see things going. And again, maybe it'll change by the end of the year. By the end of the year, people want the more fast-paced, like Mr. Beast type cuts, right? So I think it's just people's the market of the emotions is changing. So that's what I'm seeing at least.
I kind of think it's both. I think that if you think about anything that you've ever really purchased, there's a story that is behind it.
Right.
Like the Lamborghini and Ferrari story.
Yeah, a little bit. But tell me more about it.
Yeah. So the family that invented the Lamborghini, they used to own tractors. They were like a wealthy tractor family, and they would buy Ferraris. One of the sons would buy Ferraris, and he was either an engineer or mechanic. And on the Ferrari that he really liked, he bought it, and there was something wrong with the fuel injection, so he like knew a way to fix it. So the person that owned Ferrari, he actually met him at an event and was basically telling him what he discovered, and the guy was very he was offended that he basically told him that this isn't who are you to kind of tell me how to build a Ferrari? Go back to building tractors. Yeah. So then immediately he quit buying Ferraris and he built Lamborghini to compete with them. So that's kind of a synopsis of the story. But when you hear that, if I were to buy a Ferrari or Lamborghini, even if people say Ferrari's better, I would rather have a Lamborghini because that identifies with me. But other people would still go with Ferrari. You know what I mean? But
it's a different target.
That's a story that is behind that, and I think all great brands have a story. Yeah, and I 100%. Think we should have a story.
I think so.
Tell, you know what I mean? And then people would identify you with you.
I think if I can leave anybody here with one tip, it's like if they really want to be a better storyteller, study Disney.
Okay.
Study
That's true.
Pixar.
That's true.
Pixar specifically. I think Disney sometimes misses with their story, but Pixar, A1. I think they never misses with their story. And I would watch it like 3 times in a movie. The first one, just kind of enjoy it, kind of actually enjoy the movie, like feel the emotions.
Yeah.
The second one, you feel the actual, like kind of start noticing what is the arc. So, typically when we are taught in school, the arc of a story is like you have the exposition, you have the climax, you have the rising action, you have the climax, and then you have the falling action, and you have the end, right?
Sure.
That's like the one story arc, right? But what people don't know is actually there's a lot of story arcs out there. There's ones that are like, the hero end up dying in the end, and then that's like a bad ending,
True.
right? There's a lot of story arcs, and if you just study that and you try to present your story and your own story using those story arcs, that's how you can make your story more compelling. Instead of just me saying like, I was born in Indonesia and I got here into the United States and then now I'm in San Diego.
Right.
Bleh. You know what I mean? Like, bleh, But if I add like, okay, so the reason why I'm here is actually because of my mom decided to marry someone from the United States. If I start a video like that, like you're like, fuck. You know what I mean? That's good. And then now you start story. So I was in Indonesia, blah, 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 I told the story. So that's a different story arc. But if people wanted to learn that, the best out of the best, and I study from them too, is by Pixar. There's a really good book called there's Ride of a Lifetime, which is a book by the CEO of Disney.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another one by the founder of Pixar. I forgot what it's called.
I got a question.
Yeah.
What brand tells the best story in your opinion?
In my opinion?
Yeah.
I like this question. We're going to clip this. Tell the best story. Which brand tells the best story? Which brand tells the best story? I'd have to say I have 2 that I think is really good.
That's fine. It's your show.
It's your show. I think it's Coca Cola or Red Bull.
Red Bull. What's Red Bull's story?
Well, it's the way they use story to like. So it's not really the story of the company. I think the way they tell their story. Because if you think about it, right, a company is like Coca Cola is just water with sugar, really, right?
Yeah.
But they make you feel that they associate their drink to the feeling of camaraderie, the feeling of family.
Okay.
You drink Coca Cola when you hang out in a nice hot summer. And it's cold Coca Cola, or when you're together in a movie, you're going on a date. They create these imageries and these visuals, like consistently to evoke this emotion, so that at least people don't know it, but when they do think about Coca Cola, they think of, like this is the feeling of togetherness in a way. But I mean, the way that's how I describe it, but not a lot of people see that in their head. Obviously, like they just
I'm
right?
not hating on your choices. It's all good.
Yeah, I think Red Bull is also interesting because they. You have the founder story too. I don't know if you know the founder story of Red Bull. It's like
no, I don't.
It's just this European guy. He went to Thailand, and then basically there is a type of drink that they have in Thailand. They drink it, and he's like, "Oh my god, this is better than caffeine." But he needs to sell this somehow, and because he can't compete with coffee, instead he created this, story that Red Bull is gonna be giving you like a lot of power, and that's why he does a lot of. Sponsorships with a lot of extreme sports.
Yeah.
Because he wants to tell the story that if you drink a Red Bull, you are an extreme sport athlete. You're on the edge and you're living life to the fullest. That's the story that they're trying to push you. And I think just the way they keep doing that over and over and over and over again, I feel like these companies have been around for more than 20 years, and their consistency of just pushing that story out, I think that's fascinating. Because I don't think many companies stay for that long and then think about it. And I think Disney too, in a way.
So you answered the question differently than I was thinking, because I was thinking of the story of the founder.
Exactly.
But you're saying the story that the actual brand provides to the consumer.
Exactly.
So for me, as far as the story of a founder, I would say Nike.
Okay.
And then as far as a brand, I'd say Apple.
That's a good one too. They're both really good.
Yeah, because Phil Knight, who started Nike, his story was crazy too.
I heard about that story. Yeah, I haven't read the book, but like I heard about that story.
Yeah, you ever seen the Phil Fontaine movie with not Tom Hanks, with Tom Cruise?
Tom Cruise. Yeah, I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, so that I ran track in high school.
Nice.
So when it came out, I watched the movie or whatever, and it was so interesting. And then how like Nike's a top 50 company in the world, but they only been around since like 82. So think about that. Like all these other companies, how did this sneaker company, US-based sneaker company, become so powerful? And they have all the top NBA players, have all the top athletes. Even if their shoes are superior or not, they make people think they're superior. They make, you know what I mean? So that would be that. And then Apple is just Apple. Like anything you buy from Apple, you just feel like you understand it, you know how to use it. You just open it out the box and it works. Yeah. Usually, most of the time. I would say pretty much 98% of the time.
Yeah. But I think it's fascinating, right? Because a company is technically, it's nothing. It's just a name and a picture a lot of times. True. Not even sometimes not a picture, a logo.
True.
Right? And I think breathing life into that, I think that's fascinating. Which is basically what I'm doing just with smaller businesses, right? Kind of like telling that story. Like there's, like you said, there's two types. There's so many stories within a company, right? There's a story of the founder. There's the story of the brand. Right. You know what I mean? And I think if you can compare Apple versus say like, I don't know, Motorola, and then like if you have a Motorola price as like a new iPhone, which is like $2,000 now. Yeah. Like which one would you get?
Yeah, most people are gonna go Apple.
Exactly. And because they have such a good story that they tell the people. Motorola just hasn't been, I mean, no offense against Motorola people, but like what I mean? I'm just from the brand perspective of like having that story that somebody can connect with, it's powerful.
And like you said, the tribalism too, because if you ever have a friend that has an Android phone or Google phone, and we're all in a group chat, just the fact that he can't get pictures, he can't get messages, and everyone gets annoyed by him. Exactly. And his phone probably is superior than our phone, but we're like, yeah, bro, get Apple. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Apple loyal fan over here too. Yeah. Not sponsored.
We're almost out of time. So do you have any announcements, anything that you'd like people to know?
I think, well, thanks for asking that. That's really cool. Again, I think we're still looking to work with more services business. I think either locally or out of the state. I am working currently on a community of people. Okay. The name hasn't been released yet, so we're probably going to release that next week. Secret? Yeah, so far, yeah. Okay. But the idea of that is to have a community of those business owners that are looking to learn about how to leverage content, AI, all these digital kind of knowledge that not a lot of people are being taught of. Even when I was in school, like nobody taught about that kind of stuff, right? Right. So that's the whole goal of the community is me sharing here, hey, here's what's working and here's how you can keep building that brand digitally through all these different efforts that you can try out. Okay. You have more tools in your toolbox as a business owner in a way. Okay. So, so that's going to come out probably in April.
So April, you're going to have your community and your new, content tool.
Yeah. So as being a part of the community, you're going to get a lot of stuff. You're going to get like a way, here's a breakdown on how you can do certain things, or here's how to use these kind of tools. How do you create really good content? So all this different stuff will be kind of like available for the community members. And
and if people want to find you, where would they go?
Yeah, just look me up anywhere. It's Brandon.Fortino. That's pretty much my whole YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, everything. It's pretty easy to find. Red Jacket will be there.
Yeah, your content's really like evergreen and you're giving a lot of free information. So if you do not follow Brandon, please follow Brandon. What if they want to meet you in person? Where could they meet you?
And Margaritas and Bingo. Last Thursday of the month. That's here right, in Teco Beso.
Teco Beso, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. So maybe talk about that. Why did you want to build a community or a meetup once a month?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think there's power in being known as in your local community. Because if you're already gonna live there, you're gonna do business with these people anyways. Why not hang out with them?
Correct. I agree with
That's
that.
as simple
I
as it
agree
is,
with that. And
right?
in your opinion, doing this meetup, how's it affected you on a personal or business level?
I think at a personal level, I think it's cool, like seeing other people in different levels. You know, there are ones that are ahead of me. There's one that are like just starting out. There's one that are similar in levels with me. So I think it's really cool seeing all the mixed pot of people together. So that brings me joy being able to be a connector in that sense.
Right.
I've always been, at least in a way, like one way or another, a connector. I was in ASB when I was in high school, so I was a student
Gotcha.
body kind of kid.
Gotcha.
When I was in college, I was a part of different organizations that our goal is to bring our school community together at San Diego State.
Nice.
I used to like throwing parties too. So like when you throw parties, get people together, having a good time. So I think it is kind of like one of those like next step levels of like, how can we bring people together to have a good time, maybe do business together, and even just, help each other out. Because I think that's the best that you can do in this world,
And then from a business standpoint, has it helped your business?
Yeah, I think it's cool to see, the connections that you've been able to meet, all these, high level people that we bring in. I think it's very cool to see like people connecting with each other. I think from my own business, there's a lot of conversations that has generated, like getting the buzz out in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of coffee conversations that came out of it. So yeah.
And the best part about Margaritas and Mingle is free.
It is free.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
free. You just have to be there a couple of hours, hang out, have some drinks. We're going to make the senator, you know what I mean? Like the drink, order the senator.
What would we call your drink? We got to get a drink name for you.
I don't know. I think the
red jacket.
Yeah, the red panda. What about
Red
that?
Panda. Ooh, that's fire. Bum, 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 bum.
Gonna get, a little margarita in there with like some maybe like pineapple and get like a little of the red coloring,
Oh, you already got it all set up?
I don't know. I'll bartend here and there a little bit.
All right, we got to have the red panda. What would we call Luna's drink? The Luna?
I don't know. The builder, the developer. I don't know. He's the DJ because he's a DJ.
Oh, he DJs?
He DJs, yeah.
Oh, maybe we should make him DJ next event.
We should. He wants to. He would love to. Yeah.
Well, I definitely appreciate you coming out on the show, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody at Margaritas and Mingle. And please hit up Brandon if you need anything with your branding or you're trying to help your business grow. And in the words of Dr. Dre, just chill till the next episode. That's a wrap. Thank you, brother.
Fire.